Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday. Today we'll be highlighting some of our upcoming women in tech who are breaking barriers and paving the way in the tech industry. We'll be talking to women at the forefront of the field about their journeys, success, and challenges. Joining us as we explore the world of tech through the lens of these young and dynamic female tech talent. Joining us this evening are Miss Danielle Mullings, Impact and Partnership Officer at Transform Health, and Miss Sherika Watson, Senior ICT Consultant at Digicel, Miss Amashika Lorne, Operations Manager at WiPay. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us this evening. As we deep dive into the topic, finding your voice as a woman in tech, I'm going to start with Danielle. What motivated you to enter the tech industry, and what has been your experience like so far?
That's a great question. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. For me, I've loved technology from when I was little. Literally, like from when I was probably 5 or 6, I was always playing around with computers. That would always be my favorite subject. I'm always challenging my teachers in those classes and saying, "Miss, I'm going to learn this before you teach it." And so that's just always been my natural love. That I've gone into. I decided to start like specializing around, I guess, sixth form. So that's when I would have done like Cape Computer Science and placed regionally, and I saw that this was something I was really good at, and I could continue in. So I decided to do that for university. So I just completed my degree last year in software engineering. And honestly, it's just such a fun space that I think is so dynamic and changes so much. And because of that dynamism, I'm attracted to just having to learn on the go and having to adapt with all the latest trends and seeing what's happening. Right now, I've gone into like a different side of tech, a little bit more of the like policy and advocacy side, particularly for the transformation of healthcare systems. With Transform Health, which has been a huge learning curve, but also very exciting, and just seeing how all the other industries that we can also work in, meaning from a more policy side as opposed to a more tech driven side. All these different fields need to come together in order for that transformation to be effective and really reach the people that we want it to. So yeah, it's a quick synopsis, but thanks for the question.
Thank you so much. Amashika, do you want to chime in?
Sure. So, a fun fact, I did programming at the CSEC level for IT, and at Woolmer's Girls at the time, it was mandatory for us to do IT, which was also very surprising, but I appreciated it and I loved writing code. It was very exciting for me. But then I left Jamaica for a year after that, and I didn't pursue the world of IT. And then I ventured off into doing things that would have, brought me closer to the social sciences and some other areas. I think how I got into tech now was more from how I think and how I approach projects. So I had the ability to work as the project manager for ends during the time of COVID. And so I met a lot of people who are working in different tech companies and, developing apps, and some really great Jamaicans too. And I really have to say, hats off to all the work that they have been doing. And it really opened up that love a little bit. And so when the opportunity came with WiPay, I remember asking, "You sure you want me? Because you don't have a comp sci degree." And I'm sure. And they're like, "No, Amo, there are some skills that you have that can be applied to this world." And so I said, "Well, you know what? Whenever I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it with so much passion." So of course I'm reading and I'm, learning from different members of the team, and even just looking at trends internationally as well. So I think that's my synopsis with IT and tech.
It sounds awesome, Amashika. Sherika, how are you?
Well, thanks for asking. Well, my journey into tech is a little bit different. We're not going to say that I loved tech or anything IT, because I recall in high school, IT was my least favorite subject. So I'm only being honest. So when I came over to tech, really was just looking at a career move and a switch at the time. What's next? How can I then capitalize on my skill set, having worked in the hospitality and tourism sector for a few years? How can I use that? How can I connect the dots? Being a person with a Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Resource Management, that was my first love. So having entered 4 years ago, then I would say that the idea of tech for me is different. The way I see it and appreciate it is different, especially during COVID, how businesses were able to transform and the economy was kept alive only because of tech. And even so, when I was doing my post grad, I never did a technical degree, but most definitely it influenced me into doing my master of my MBA in international business management, because it's
Congratulations.
an international industry. We are all
Yeah.
connected. So, but where I'm at right now, I'm definitely an advocate for women entering. You do not need to know coding or programming or speak the language of tech, but there are different areas that you can capitalize on.
Awesome, man. And I like that spin that you made on it. I mean, some of you might have touched on it already, but what are some of the opportunities do you see as a woman in tech? You know,
Hmm.
you mentioned COVID, some of the things that are coming out, but as being a woman in tech, what are some of the opportunities that you're seeing?
Um,
Anybody can take that one.
Sherika is gonna go first.
Sure. I'll take it. What I see happening now is that the industry is at a place where it's just booming and it's growing. And you see a lot of different tech startup companies happening. Before you even look at opportunities for women on a whole, you need to look at the industry, looking at Jamaica, especially we could use Jamaica as an example, moving towards a digital economy. And then you're talking about eventually becoming a digital society. And that by itself carries a lot of opportunities for women when it comes on to digital jobs, digital entrepreneurship. How can you participate in tech? And then the business side of tech as well. Danielle mentioned when it comes on to policy making and management, and more so on the management side. So it's showing the different layers of tech how you can participate. Opportunities are there for sure, both for men and women, but women as well bring a different perspective to the table, and that's how you are able to make an impact, to allow your voice to be heard within the industry. So you can enter at different levels, different layers. What we know for sure is the industry is expanding, and it will continue to expand with more women entering tech.
Great.
So I
Amashika.
love the foundation that she has laid, and especially that she has highlighted that both men and women can take part in this evolution that's taking place. I had the opportunity to speak at the monthly meeting with the National Association of Hairdressers and Cosmetologists last night. And as I was preparing for that presentation, I'm looking up some of the career paths and the career fields. So obviously you would have seen some of the typical, salon managers, manicurists, pedicurists, braid technician. I didn't even know some of the terms but I know what those jobs are. But they've also gone a step further and listed things like a beauty and wellness app developer. And I also saw a beauty blogger, and I thought, in today's day and age, how you have micro influencers and even really super influencers, being a
Right.
beauty blogger is something that you're going to go on with in the future, because you can be testing out different products. But then it really brought me back to, so obviously we're all in Jamaica, and I'm sure as ladies, we all love Sephora in the States because we feel like we get the best match by their makeup artists. And I'm saying the world of tech is going to evolve in just even that industry, when you can see the swatches, you submit an image of your face and it matches it for you. Even if you wanted to put AR on top of that and see a particular lip color, it's like, are reds really my shade? Are pinks really my shade? So these are things that young Jamaicans coming up can start thinking about. Even clothes, if you have a style and my body type, if I stand up here and I submit an image and, just putting AR with it, like, can I feel like I am overseas or at that brand house trying on the clothes itself? That's a simple way that tech is going to be involved in just the beauty and personal care and just retail space. So it's just ideas like those I think young people coming up should start to think about, like, what is it in your life now? How can I turn that into a business? Because if somebody drops the buck challenge or whatever, they're so quick to it. There's no try to think about something that will last, something of substance that really has durability going into the future. That's how you position yourself for the future. Even the nails, these stick-on nails, things like designs. So you don't have to worry about the heavy coding aspect of it. Think about what skills I have, whether I can draw, whether I know how to put colors together, whether it is I know how to negotiate a deal. All of these things are critical in the world of tech. So that's kind of what I'd want to add to what Sherika has said.
Great. I like the
Yeah.
way you articulate that, with regards to the opportunities. So these are things that women do in everyday life, but how do you incorporate tech now in the future of where we're going in the world. So I like the way you articulate that, Amashika. So Danielle, I'm gonna have you chime in as well. What are some of
Of
the
course.
opportunities as women in tech?
Yeah, I like the point that's being made so far, which really highlights that in every industry that you have, there's going to be a tech adjacent job or so on that can be added in. So as Amashika said, if you're talking about beauty, then there are applications that can be built for that. If you're talking about finance, you have WiPay, etc. Like there's so many different ways to get in there. So it could be that you are good at marketing and you're going to be the marketing manager for a tech company. It could be that you're good at management like Sherika, and so you're going to be a project manager. There's so many different aspects and angles that you can take to enter the tech industry, and I think that that's something that we as not just persons from the Caribbean overall need to identify, that it's not just a one-track mind. You're not just a tech person and a humanities person or a social sciences person. Like everybody can be in the same field. And another aspect I would say to that is because of this, I guess it's a stigma in a sense that women can't do STEM as much. Like for example, when I was in high school, my high school teacher, my sixth form teacher rather, would always be saying, I'm preparing you guys for the real world. So I'm gonna keep telling you every day that women can't do STEM, women can't code, etc. So I would make it my personal mission that every single piece of code that I submitted would start off with a big banner saying girls can code, and if there's a password and a username and a password to enter, my username would be girls can, and then the password is code or so on. And I would just annoy him every single day with putting that into every piece of code. So it starts with some young women just taking charge and saying, "Hey, we can do this," and showing others that there is a path to this. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's gonna be a case where you may be the only person, and I think that that's. I mean, it's going to another question you have about challenges.
Yes.
But that was a challenge I had at first, in the sense that not only was I the only woman in some of the spaces I was in, I would always be the youngest person, the only person from the Caribbean, sometimes the only Black person. Now, lots of like the international councils and so on that I may sit on. And at first, that made me feel a bit, I guess, just very self conscious and aware that I am, bringing a different perspective. And you feel sometimes that you're carrying the weight of this nation on your back. You're not, but it's just something in your head, right?
Yes.
And so that's something that I think I've had to just overcome by, one, identifying that it's actually like almost reworking it as a positive thing instead of seeing it as a negative thing. So let's say you're the only woman at a tech company, for example. That's good. You're the one who's opening the door for others to come through, right?
Right.
Instead of seeing it as a negative, something that's detracting from you. So
Yes.
I think that that's one of the things that we need to focus on, is like seeing the positive in it. If I'm bringing that Caribbean perspective, then that's a positive. If I'm bringing that perspective as a woman, then that's a positive. And as Sherika mentioned earlier, COVID would have just changed the whole landscape. It finally showed some, many companies that would have been old dinosaurs in this whole tech revolution. Everyone is now saying we now need technology to be a part of our offerings, because there's no way that if the pandemic is to restart, God forbid, or something like that happens, we want to ensure that we're in a position to adequately take advantage of technology and continue to deliver our services. So now I think is the perfect time. It's a perfect bedrock and foundation for us to really advance in tech as women.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we'll come to my follow-up question. I mean, this topic is about finding your voice as a woman in tech. So my follow-up question to you, and based on what you have seen in the industry, your industry, or in the world, global economy, how have you seen the industry change in terms of diversity and inclusion over the years with regards to tech and women? Mamashika, go ahead.
Wow. Well, I think I'm the newest one to take here, but I think especially with COVID, and when you look at Jamaica with our labor market and some of the best talent going overseas or being recruited by entities that can pay top dollar for developers, you know, we start to look for new talent, or we look at opportunities to train up new people. So for example, in my company, or star developer, well, one of our star developers based in Jamaica, he didn't have 10 years of experience, but our CEO knew that he wanted to groom somebody because of the newness of being a payment facilitator working in the space in Jamaica. So he needed somebody that was young, had a lot of energy, wasn't stuck in their ways. And that worked out very well, and I think that, and even in other territories, he liked that style for a developer, and it has worked well for the company. Other companies, however, might feel like, okay, maybe we need to do some, apprenticeship or shadowing. So if we're going to take on new interns or new people, they need to take on all the knowledge of the people who are outgoing to just kind of follow in their footsteps. So I think, some companies are learning to be a little bit more agile and be willing to train up and work with I'm a millennial there, what, Gen Zs, the next set coming up. And that has its own challenges too, because them say instant gratification.
I like
So you
that.
have to work with that. And also when it comes on to just people who work differently. So some people like the being in a cubicle, being there every day. COVID also taught us that I can still be effective and be at home in a bus. I can still submit all the work. We can use Asana or the different project management tools, and I can, do the sprint with you, and I can clock in and I can show you what I've done and I can submit it. So you're seeing the trends where some CEOs or you have other senior managers kind of getting it and whispering in the right ears, like, all right, this one doing the work. So I think, over time we're seeing different people embrace how tech has been good for productivity. So yeah, I would say in that regard, I mean, I can't necessarily speak to people who have disabilities. I personally don't know anyone who had a disability was working in the field of tech, but I think this could be the opportunity because it's really about your brain and doing the work. So you know, if you're an amputee, but you were able to still code or you were able to still get a task done, I think it is still possible, and that sort of thing. But maybe one of the other ladies could share a little bit more on that aspect of inclusion. But my last note on inclusion would be WiPay in Jamaica, WiPay in Trinidad.
All right, I think we lost Amashika for a minute. Is it me? Okay. Sherika, you could probably chime in on that with regards to diversity and inclusion for tech.
Sure, Twitty-Ann. I'm not able to backtrack a decade ago, but I'm surely able to speak on where I entered over 4 years ago. What I see happening now, before is a technical industry. Put it there: technology, communication, innovation. That is what the industry is about. So before, or what I can speak on, is what I've heard. Typically, persons would hire because of certifications that you had beforehand, or your I would want to say degrees that you had beforehand. But you're recognizing now that it's such an integrative and supportive space, and that really know what you can do at the entry level is high of a attitude, and then you have a myriads of partners that you can work with that offer their individual trainings that you can do on the job training and certifications. So really just hiring for emotional intelligence, because it can be a black and white space for sure, and train persons up. So that's the difference that can be made in the industry. I am seeing it taking place. Perhaps at a wider scale, it can take place more.
Awesome. I'm really blown away by some of the responses that I'm getting, and I feel so good about the future of tech, with you guys in it. I am really, really, I'm really, really happy for what I'm hearing. So, one of the things, so we talk about opportunities and we talk about all these things, what are some of the important lessons that you have learned that have helped you to develop in your career? Let's start with Danielle for this one.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a great question. I mean, I think the biggest accelerator for my career in technology has been actually public speaking and my ability to represent myself. And so, as we speak about this topic of finding your voice as a woman in tech, I think you literally have to find your voice in terms of not only are you doing you're doing the coding or you're doing the project management or you're doing whichever aspect of it, but I think you also need to get in touch with what your story is within technology or within your overall narrative on work, what it is that is your passion, whether it's hotels and tourism or whichever aspect of life excites you and how that connects you to technology. I think when you're able to represent yourself in such a way that a person can look on and say, wow, I relate to that story, or I like the work of the organization that she may be representing and talking about, that really allows you to just grow in the industry in such a big way. So that has been a big growth factor for me. And so I've gotten to speak at all these different events. They played my video last year at the World Health Summit in Berlin, in Germany. And so it's just been exciting to see how that has allowed me to grow. So that's definitely one area there. The second area I would say is building your network. And I think sometimes whether you're in school or in the workplace, etc. I think sometimes we can underestimate the people around us
Right.
because maybe today or this year is not their best year, or maybe it takes a while for them to get to where they need to. But you'd be surprised how people can grow in 5 years, 10 years. You never know where they'll be in another few years. So that being said, I think it's always important to treat everyone around you with respect, integrity. Like you have to have those core values that persons know define you, and when you do that, you're planting seeds that you'll reap in 5 years time, 6 years time. So those would be my top two tips.
Awesome. Sherika, what is your take on it?
Twitty-Ann, from my perspective, having entered the industry, I would want to say at a late stage, no formal training, is to
Yes.
definitely eliminate the fear of sounding stupid. A lot of times we do not know something and we shy away from asking because we're wondering the company that we're in if we will sound stupid or we will be looked at less off. My suggestion is to eliminate that because within this industry you have a set of experts. No one is an expert for everything in ICT.
Mm.
So most definitely ask questions if you're clueless or if you have a little gut feeling that something is off and you need further explanation,
Yes.
then please ask that question. For me, that's how I expanded my industry knowledge because a lot of times I do get questions like, "How did you transition between hospitality and tourism management over to ICT?" And it's the fact that I was open to learning, I was open to asking questions later down. At some point, I had no clue what the cloud was. In my head, I used to look up how do persons get things in the cloud. No, I'm speaking from a different place because I do know when you refer to the cloud what you are talking about. So even though you'll still probably have persons have no idea what the cloud is when you are talking about the cloud, where is the cloud? It's not the cloud that we know. It's some server somewhere else in the world. That's what we're talking about. At the end of the day, some persons will make you feel as if you're stupid. That's not
Yes.
your problem. That's
Right.
your problem. Your
Right.
problem is to make sure that you learn as much, you ask as much, and you grow from day to day because it's an ever changing industry.
I love that, Sharika. I love that. And the cloud, when the cloud was introduced back in what, 2017? Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what the cloud was, and everybody said, "Don't be embarrassed about that." And I like what you said about asking questions. Don't be afraid to be stupid. That's how you learn. They can laugh at you now, but later on you have that knowledge. So I love that. So one of the things I want to find out, or just to ask, I mean, from Danielle and yourself, Sharika, what do you think that companies and organizations can do to attract and retain more women in tech roles?
Okay, I'm going to take this question first. So at my company right now, I currently work remotely, right? The company is based in Switzerland and it has persons from LMICs all over the world and also from, higher income earning countries as well. But it's so amazing because it's just this diverse mix of people. And when we're together physically, like our annual retreat or so on, you're just hearing so many different accents from all over the world, and it's pretty cool. But nonetheless, one of the major benefits that I think the company has is I see so much work-life balance in the sense that, the executive director might join and she has her daughter on her lap. And, that allows women to have that kind of accessibility to one, when you enter parenthood, and you're able to balance that with work. And also, I think the ability to even work remotely allows you to have a bit more time to do what you need to. And there's also flexibility in terms of, persons may have to drop their kids to school. I see UNICEF Jamaica also having that here in Jamaica. Like they'll allow that flexibility to drop your kids to school, or if you need to leave early to pick up your child and then continue remotely for the rest of the day, like that's something that's accessible. So I think companies need to look at how do we actually create a workspace that
Mm-hmm.
allows persons to function as human beings,
Okay.
identifying that they have challenges, they have things that are important to them outside of work. They are a whole person and not just an employee. I think that's the type of space that we need to get into for it to be long term and sustainable. We even have that this big conversation going on right now about menstrual leave, for example,
Mm-hmm.
for women. And I think that it just comes down to practically when we look at a person and
Mm-hmm.
them functioning as a holistic person,
Mm-hmm.
what are their needs and how can we as your workplace is going to take up like half of your life basically because you spend a whole lot of time there and then come home. So you have to look at the person as a whole and not just an employee. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I hope when you become a CEO or the owner of your company, I'm sure you'll have your staff and be able to retain them. They would not want to leave your workplace. All right. So, Sharika.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with everything that Danielle said. But from my company,
Mhm.
what I would want to say, the majority of persons on my team are actually
Mhm.
female, so
Nice.
they are doing an excellent job by retaining and attracting women to the
Mhm.
industry. But if
Mhm.
we should speak in more general terms, most definitely that work-life balance. I do know of organizations where persons struggle to get personal time off. It's personal time off. You need the time to go re-energize, come back with fresh ideas and ways
Mhm.
of working. I do not have that struggle, so I am smiling. It's something that we preach and we practice within Digicel, work-life balance, and to
Mhm.
take the time off when you do need it, because burnout is real. It's a very hectic industry. We're not going to downplay that. So you must learn how to have that work-life balance overall.
Well, awesome. Great. Oh, wow. You guys are on point tonight. Guys are on point. So we mentioned some of the challenges. We spoke about some of the lessons. No, we didn't mention challenges as yet. We spoke about lessons. So let's look at challenges. What's the biggest challenge that you have experienced and how did you overcome it, Sharika?
Okay. I'm looking at the biggest challenge, because while it was a challenge, it wasn't a lasting one for me. I'll refer to when I started in the industry, probably like a few months in. There's so much to learn with this industry, especially when you're dealing with multiple partners on out of the box units. You hear persons use the term bomb, what's the configuration, what's the storage. It's a lot of technical things coming at you at once. And I recall I unearthed I created this opportunity rather for a company I was first in. And if you understand the industry, when there's an opportunity on the table and you were the first one to go to that table, you must register that deal with the different partners, be it Dell, HPE. You have multiple partners in the space. And I was challenged because I did not know how to do this, because the configuration was very complex. At the time, it was a hyper converged infrastructure that I was looking at for my clients. I went to the engineer, had years of experience in the field, very knowledgeable. But I guess I'm used to the field, right? So I said, I have this opportunity. I have already spoken to the partner. I've connected the dots. All I need now is to lock in my rate so I can win this. And he was very busy. He was busy for a week and be like, no, this is serious. All right, you're this busy. Teach me how to do it so I do not come back to you again, sir, please. That did not happen. At this time, my back was against the wall. I think my blood pressure was like 150, the highest level it could have been, because it was a sizable deal. Instead, what I did, I actually went back to the partner. I said, all right, I have this challenge. Can you teach me how do I use your platform to register my opportunity to create the configuration so I can lock in my prices? And I'm happy to share that they took the time out. They shared it with me. They taught me, and from that time onwards, I was able to go on register my own deals, create my configuration, and make it happen. If you're going to enter this industry, you must be willing to learn. You must be willing to go beyond what is needed of you on a daily basis if you want to be successful. And that's how I have been able to overcome that challenge and other challenges that have been thrown at me over the years.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Danielle, do you want to chime in on it?
Yeah, sure. I think my biggest challenge has been similar to what Sherika said. Just in terms of having that, just having to overcome that self doubt and self limiting ideologies that you have in your head that maybe you're not fit for this space, or you're too young, or you're too this, too that. I think it just comes back to finding your why, finding that reason for why you're doing this in the first place, and kind of sticking to it even when things get hard. So yeah, definitely for me, it has been that kind of just self belief. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Welcome back, Amashika. Welcome back. We were speaking about challenges. What are the biggest challenges that you've had or experienced, and how did
Hi.
you manage to overcome them? Do you want to chime in on that one?
Well, as I
Okay, yes.
said, this space is
Oh,
still pretty new for me. In
mhm.
September, I will mark my 1 year anniversary. But I think, are you hearing me?
Yes, we are. Yes, yes.
Right. Okay. Yes. So I was saying, um, being, I heard somebody say it, being willing to learn is one thing, and being willing to be mentored, right? Because there will be other people who are in the company, or who are in other companies that I can learn from, whether it is that I'm watching what they're doing or meeting them at events. But even within um the committees within my company, there are people who mentor me, and I have to say thank you so much to our chairman Livingston Morrison, or group operations officer John. John is based in Trinidad, so he would have understood policy and legislation to do with the world of tech from that side. So he also helps to mentor me as I'm maneuvering through the Jamaican landscape. And I think that has really been good, because I've always wanted to learn from other people, but not every company has people who are willing to lift someone up. So from I came in, that has been there, and that continues. And I think they also enjoy mentoring me because how much, when they pour into me, they see how I'm utilizing the information as well, and I'm growing, and each time I'm getting better with the different projects or tasks that I'm given. And
Mhm,
also, you have to understand that men and women do business a little differently sometimes, and I think they like to go out late at night and have a glass of wine or drink. And sometimes we are tired. I mean, I don't have children yet, but if you had children, I can imagine that whole, asking the nanny to stay an extra hour, or if somebody else can do the babysitting, because that's just them. A lot of deals happen around these tables, at golf, on the
mhm,
boat. So you kind of have to play the game with them as well. And
mhm.
so I've had a lot of late nights because of that. So whenever my boss comes to Jamaica, I just know, oh my gosh, my whole week mash up, because we're going to
Hope
be
he's
doing
not listening.
a lunch to, a little, oh, it's early lunch at 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock. So you have to be, yeah, so you have to understand that sometimes you have to be a bit agile too, in terms of closing a deal. These things do happen.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, in the first couple of months that happened quite a bit, but being willing to be mentored and taking the advice and applying has been really good to me. So yeah, yeah.
Great. I like the way you ended with that, because that dovetail into my next question. Let me start with Daniel. So, what can male allies or partners do to support us as women in tech and to help to create a more inclusive industry? What part do you think our male allies could play in this to make it easier?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it comes down to two things: mentorship, and then
Mm-hmm,
also setting rather company goals around equity and inclusion. So,
mm-hmm,
for example, I lead the management of the equity and inclusion indicators for Transform Health, and those look like everything from ensuring that a certain percentage of our leadership are women, and also from LMIC countries, and then also ensuring a certain percentage would be young people and representing youth, right? So when all of that comes together, you have goals that you're literally reporting on to ensure that this you do have a setup that is inclusive and diverse. And then in addition to that, I think the mentorship aspect is so important, and that's what Amashika would have been touching on a while ago.
mm-hmm,
Some of my best mentors in technology have been men, and men that saw my, saw my abilities when I was pretty young and said, "Yo, okay, she's really good at tech. We'll help her with X and Y and Z." Even getting this job here that I have now, on both accounts, I work with UNICEF and I also work with Transform Health. And on both accounts, it has been someone I've worked with before, that has seen my ability, and he said, "All right, we're going to bring you in, we believe in you, and we'll give you the tools and the education that you need to function well in this space." I also think men would have to be graceful when mistakes are made, and I think that goes for men or women. So I think when you're someone who's new to the industry, you will make those mistakes. There will be things that you don't understand, and just to kind of hold your hand in a sense and say, "It's okay. You've made a mistake. That's natural. You're human. Here's how you correct it, and here's how we go forward." I think that's going to be quite important. So you can fail forward, I believe is the term, and just keep moving and keep pushing. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Sherika.
I'll put a little twist to that question, Twitty-Ann.
Mm,
For me, it's not necessarily how men can help us because I think they have been helping us
great.
directly and indirectly. From my perspective, my first tech boss was a male. He was very supportive. He would defend me to the T if anybody would come at me in a professional way, of course. But outside of that, men over the years they have been leaving different clues, different tidbits for us to take on. But then again, we're women and we are inclined to think and act a certain way. For
Okay.
them, in any profession, it's a game and they play well. But for us, we see the court and we're probably just using half of the court, while men are they're using the entire court. Right? Amishka said it before. When our boss comes to Jamaica, they go out, they have a drink. I'm not sure if they go on the golf course. That's how they do it. But typically for women, we go to office, we come back home, and we forget that it's all about connecting with other persons, building out our network. So there will be a time when you would need to connect with somebody and customer A, "Hi, how are you doing? I realize that you are associated with X, Y, and Z. I'm just asking for a kind introduction." Men do that very well. We call it the old boys club. Is it really an old boys club, or is it just a great network that they have built? And we really study them and start to capitalize on the things that they have been doing. Then, as women, we can learn from them indirectly to help ourselves.
Awesome. Amashika, do you want to add anything else? I know you said a lot about it before, but do you want to add based on the question? No. Do you have anything else or another twist to it?
I actually want to go back, as we're talking about this, it came to mind, and I want to big her up. So Stacey Halsall Peart, I met her during the time of COVID when
Yes.
I was working on that first cashless market. At the time, I was doing freelance in terms of project management, marketing, and comms, and helping out a friend on the project. And that's where I met her. She just observed me, and she had reached out to the person. She's like, "Where's Amma now?" That sort of thing. And we eventually spoke here and there. But I remember, so I wasn't in the world of tech, and she is the COO for AIS. And when we
Nice.
speak, she's like, "Amma, you can lean on me or ask me anything if you need to." And I think it's so important to highlight how women help each other sometimes, because we hear the nasty narrative about who is afraid of which young person is coming to take their job and all of that. I remember I wasn't in the world of tech. She would have just seen me work at one particular project. And we developed a relationship, and she's like, "Listen, I'm older. There's so many lessons in business that I can teach you." And so, Stacey, big up. But as I said before, we have to learn how they play the game. Um, but for me, I like when you push me. Don't just hold my hand and baby me because I'm a woman, or because I'm younger. No, push me. So that's what happens with my chairman. So he came and he's just like asking for this report, that report, da, da, da. And I'm just like, these things never even make. These things never, I didn't get this when I came. So some of these things I'm building out. He's asking about some quantity. Did you develop that process? And I'm just like, I'm gonna get back to you. I'm gonna get back to you. And but he pushes me with my best interest at heart, because he sees that there is the ability to make this one grow, and this one can run up that learning curve very quickly. So as much as sometimes it's a lot in a short space of time, I enjoy it and we work very well. So whenever we have our one-on-ones, it's a lot of things, but it really has helped also because I am new. So I just particularly like that style from I'm little, like push me and let me come back as a fighter, no matter the field, and the same energy I'm taking here. So I think more women need to understand that yes, you can be feminine, but your fierceness is right there with it. It's feminine
Right.
and fierce. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Great. I mean, you guys just on a roll this tonight, on a roll. I love this panel. I mean, we just have a few more questions to go. Um, I will probably throw this out to Danielle. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest, well, Danielle, and then I'll start with Sherika and Amashika. So, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest technological advancement that we can expect in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, this is a great question. So I've been looking at this in terms of healthcare for the
Mm-hmm.
past 3 years, and I think the first step would be, or first thing I'd be looking to see is one, the digitalization of our hospitals. So everything from patient management records, especially when it comes to storage and database within the Caribbean, I feel like that is such a weak area sometimes
Mm-hmm.
because we may have a whole lot of physical documents, and when somebody is going to search for your records, like it's a physical folder that they're looking for. I think
Mm-hmm.
that digitalization is one of the first things that we'll start to see, and with the hope that that would speed up and make some of those processes more efficient, especially when it comes to even there's some patient management systems we worked on in first year, for example, and that's just looking at how can we get persons into the hospital and out, and also how do we prioritize them based on the illness or sickness that they may have. So that's something I would see coming along. But also, I think we're entering this age of um, basically having the patient take more control over their health. And so, in that sense, a person may have a like a Fitbit or one of those Apple Watches, etc., that's tracking different things. Or persons want to be able to access knowledge themselves and then consult with their doctor where needed, as opposed to you always going to and being dependent on your doctor. So that's one of the paradigm shifts that we're seeing come across right now that I think will be pretty important. And also, when we speak about interoperability and the ability to say, all right, if I'm flying to Trinidad for the week or I'm moving to Trinidad, my health records can come with me. So, as I go to a hospital in Trinidad and I have an illness or something, they're able to easily access and say, okay, well, Danielle was at the hospital in Jamaica 10 years ago or 5 years ago, she's diagnosed with XYZ. So that interoperability is also something that I know is coming. CARICOM is working on that single ICT space, and just having that harmony across our different Caribbean islands and countries, and that's something that I'd be expecting to see as well. So yeah, I think those are the main ways. I think telemedicine is going to continue to grow in the same way that remote work will grow, and I think those are some of the exciting opportunities to see. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Amma.
All right. So yes, definitely telemedicine. We also started seeing that in the world of COVID, but I liked how Daniel was phrasing that or framing it. As I would have mentioned earlier, I think retail is going to take on a lot more AR and become more immersive. So, for example, I don't have to spend the money to go on a flight to, go into the store to try on things or to see how that shade of red looks on me. But then it will also require, in terms of the payment space, also having more subscribers, more merchants, more customers on board so that the paying for things is easier. And then, of course, shipping and the logistics side of it, just making it a tighter loop for everyone involved. Of course, in Jamaica, we're going to need more people to even just get on board with just being digital, and coming out of writing and cash and that sort of thing. So even the police stations, when you have to make a report on the big book, we want no police stations to have any of those, and the officers being savvy too. So if it is that I'm gonna say the statement and say the statement and it starts writing it, that's fine. And that would segue into how Chat GPT is now the craze these days. It's everybody's talking about it. We're going to see more of this, making things more accessible and more affordable going forward as well. I think travel is going to become something that people don't feel is so far and distant anymore. So when a travel blogger goes to Bali or goes to Indonesia, goes to Colombia, there's going to be so much content now that I can sit at home in the middle of nowhere and be like, oh, I felt like I was at Bali with her. Because the way how they're going to be sharing, they're going to make it a lot easier for other people to come on the journey with them, because we're not reading physical books as much. So we want more experience and we want to feel a part of it. So even just museums are going to have more immersive experiences. And even for people who are loners, or, you're just to yourself, there are going to be more opportunities for you to still experience the world with how technology is going to add another layer to it. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that we're going to see come to the fore. But of course, parents are going to have to deal with children asking 500 million questions.
Definitely. Definitely. So this is really good. I like the way how both of you, I'm gonna get to Sherika shortly, but they where Danielle took it from telehealth and you from retail, and how the government will change some of these initiatives that you guys are talking about. I've seen where the government are actually embarking on some of those to get into that direction. So Sharika, I'm not sure what else you have to add.
Well, from my end, what I'll wrap up with saying that over the next couple of years or months to go, that we will see continued growth in cloud computing. There is now a greater level of appreciation what it is, what it's able to do, and to eliminate the geographical barriers, especially the way we work, how we do business, and how we communicate. Especially looking the small and medium sized businesses, you're able to capitalize with the latest technology without that large upfront expense in hardware. And even if they lack the talent, because of the different applications and databases that are available via the cloud, they are able to tap into that. So that definitely has impacted the economy, but in a more substantial way, we will see that happening over the next couple of years and months.
Awesome. All right, guys. So let us just try to wrap up with this important question, and I would want each of you just to chime in on that. So, what's the most important piece of advice would you offer to other women in tech? Let's start with Amashika.
uh I don't think it's one thing. I think, and it's just recently, so I'm now in my early 30s, and I had two experiences recently that really, I felt like I finally realized what's my superpower as Amma. And I think it really has to do with, you need to focus on what you do best, but you won't get here even before you go to university, or when you, even if you're a star student and valedictorian, it's going to take some time to really go inward and develop, like, what's my superpower that I can offer to the world. And so how I process information and send it out is something that I think is really special. And but that's just me. You have some people who conceptualize very well. You have some people who can do everything very well. But you have to know what's your superpower, and then just bring that to the fore each time. But you have to be willing to learn, because you won't always know it all. And in the world of tech, things happening in India and China are, their evolutions are happening so fast, we probably don't see some of it as yet. So you have to be willing to stay up to date with current affairs, and you're gonna have to network and go to some of these late night things to meet new people and learn from them and impart your knowledge too. So I think being able to absorb what's happening, take out what you probably don't need right now, and then apply, and just keep doing that. Absorb, apply, absorb, apply. You can't absorb everything and apply everything one time. So you need to just be able to filter and apply something, create. So I think that's probably what I would say. It's not tech related, but it's something you can use for every stage of your life. And I think that's what I'd want to impart. So remember, I don't have a degree in comp sci, but I am absolutely enjoying the space that I'm in now. And I feel like I'm doing good work in terms of financial inclusion for people and helping to empower families. Because my parents are like my world, and my grandma, and just our family structure. So when I can help people to feel more empowered and to earn an honest living, it makes me feel good as a person, as a Jamaican, as a citizen of the world. And so you just have to find out that, okay, this is what I'm doing. It doesn't betray who I am. I'm learning and I'm applying. I'm learning and I'm applying. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Sherika, what you'd like to add?
I'm really thinking about it. I think by now I might sound like a scratch record because we have mentioned it before, but it's so powerful and important that I think it's very important that I reiterate the importance of having a mentorship. Right, this is an industry where you need mentors. If you don't have a physical mentor, there's somebody that you can follow on social media, read a book or two, find somebody that you can see how they have transitioned over the years, perhaps not footstep for footsteps, but you can pick something from their journey that will assist you along the way. So mentors, they can assist you in multiple ways. It could be that upskilling is one other way, just an introduction through building your network. That person, because of their interaction with you, they're able to vouch for you, even in a room where you're not seated at the table. A lot of times, especially our male counterparts, they depend on that so-called old boys club to take them from one area to the next area, be it their political career, their professional career, or even at school if they're doing their degree or certifications. So mentorship is very key in this industry, and it's something that we need to think about more intentional as women in the industry if we want to grow. It could be a male mentor or a female mentor. And the last point that I would like to point out is we really don't play our achievements. Well, I just got a certification. For a male, it's not just a certification. I'm now Cisco certified. I am a cloud architect. No, look here, I'm a software engineer. It's not just a certification. So, ladies, please stop it. Do stop downplaying your achievements. It's your achievement, and you have worked hard for it.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. Danielle.
Yes, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that a woman need to hear right now would be to start where you are, because I think sometimes we're waiting for either some big change to happen in our lives, or we keep saying, "All right, well, tomorrow I'll start," or "the day after that I'll start," and we keep procrastinating. But I think it's to start where you are. So if it is that right now what you can afford to do or have time to do is maybe you spend a 1 hour each night, or 30 minutes, or 10 minutes each night, are reading about a new tech trend or something that you'd like to do in the future, then that's where you start. If it is that you're, a young high school student who's interested in tech, and maybe you just want to bring together the tech interested persons in your class and just have a conversation once a week, like whatever it is that is accessible to you right now, I always say to persons that I think that the tools for your success are around you right now, because either way, you have to build your story from where you are. And that's something that I think is going to be very, very important. And the other side to it is I would say, is balance. In a sense, of course, you're always going to have some periods of your life that are more intense than others. But I think what we want is sustainable growth, right? Not just growth and then we burn out and we can't do nothing else for the next couple of
Right.
years and we're just done, right? And you're just tired. No, you want to have sustainable growth, right? And so you have to have a bit of a plan. And that's something that I've started doing now, and saying that these are the certain skills I want to build for this year. And I'm not going to underestimate how much I can grow in 5 years and overestimate how much I can grow in 1 month, right? I'm going to make it more sustainable and more, something that I can lay out and see where I'm going. I think having that plan of action towards how you approach your life, instead of waiting for your life to happen for you, that's going to be extremely critical to your growth and development. And in that plan, you could have things like finding a mentor, or other areas that you may want, and just allowing your life to happen in a way that you have coordinated to some extent, and controlling what you can control. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. I've enjoyed this session so much, and I'm so pleased by the knowledge and how brilliant these young ladies are. Thank you so much for joining this panel. I really have to reach out back to some of you after this for sure. I'm really impressed with what I'm hearing, and some of these questions were not you didn't see them before, and you handled them very well. So I want you to thank you, ladies. I mean, I will really want to see you on another session, maybe a follow-up session. It has been amazing, ladies. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Tech Talk Tuesdays. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guests about their experiences and insights into the tech industry, and stay up to date with the latest episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. On Tuesday, we'll be having our members mingle at the Crew Bar at 6 p.m., where we'll be continuing to highlight women in tech. Thank you so much. Donate at or Tech Alliance crowdfunding. I'm not seeing it there as yet, but if you like what you're hearing, go ahead, donate Tech Alliance crowdfunding to help the JTDA. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we'll see you next time on Tech Talk Tuesday.
Twitty-Ann, it's Thursday. The mingle is on Thursday. I think you said
Thursday.
Tuesday.
I said Tuesday. Oh, because of Tech Talk Tuesday. Thursday at 6 p.m. at
Tuesday,
Crew Bar. Thank
JTDA.
you so much. Thank you. All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.